Hi and welcome to Ottawa English. I'm Angela, and in this video we're going to take a look at IELTS Writing Task 2. And it's about the special tax that some places are introducing on electric cars. So this is our prompt. Some people think that a special tax on electric cars discourages people from buying them. What do you think the solution might be? So you have 40 minutes to write a minimum of 250 words. There's no upper limit, so you can write as much as you want, but don't write less than 250 words. Before you start writing, you want to make sure that you've really understood the question. So it's about a special tax on electric cars, and the problem being that it can discourage people from buying them. So basically the question is taxing electric cars discouraging buyers? And what's the solution? When you prepare your response, you want to make sure that you've got an introduction where you paraphrase the question and give a high-level answer of the problem and the solution. Then you go on to write a paragraph about the problem, and you develop your description with supporting details. Then the impact that that problem has on people, and you develop that with supporting details. And then the solution, and again you develop that with supporting details. And when you've done all of that, you write your conclusion, which is basically answering the question. I've prepared a response, and for my introduction, I've said, the realization that transportation makes a substantial contribution to both global and local air pollution has changed the nature of the road user, without changing the way funds are collected to cover the exorbitant costs of road maintenance. As a result, some countries, states and provinces have implemented taxes on the very vehicles designed to reduce that pollution. The possibility that this might dissuade some people from making the shift to electric vehicles is high. Therefore, changing the way that all road users are taxed may be a less discouraging way of dealing with this issue. So I've paraphrased the question and I've introduced my description of the problem and the solution. And that's what I'm going to go on to develop now. So, starting with the problem, I say, traditionally, a tax on gasoline was used to raise the funds for road maintenance. Whenever a car filled up at the gas pump, a tax was collected to cover road maintenance. The tax worked because it was proportional to the road use. The more the vehicle used the road, the more their gas tanks needed filling, the more road maintenance they paid. Other road users, such as cyclists and pedestrians, were exempt. However, since they didn't really cause much wear and tear to the roads, that exemption seemed fair. So I've gone into where this problem has come from and described it. Now I'm going to talk about the impact that that problem has had. In today's world, that situation has changed because non-gasoline vehicles, such as electric vehicles and electric bicycles, have become both heavier and more prolific, contributing significantly more to the deterioration of our roads without contributing to the maintenance tax base. And now I go on to the solution. Obviously, the current situation isn't sustainable, but adding taxes indiscriminately could backfire. A better alternative would be to remove the taxes on gasoline and instead tax all road users based on the damage their vehicles do to roads. That way, the tax would be perceived as fair, with really heavy vehicles like commercial trucks paying more than lighter vehicles like electric bicycles. And then my conclusion, where I just answer the question. To conclude, the proliferation of non-gasoline vehicles has added a new element to the destruction of the road infrastructure, and governments need to rethink their maintenance tax base so that the collection of funds is proportional and fair to all road users and doesn't penalise those who are doing their best to reduce pollution. So there are several things I've done during this essay that pick up points towards my final score. First of all, I've used several phrasal verbs: making the shift, dealing with the issue, filling up, and doing their best. I've also used several common expressions: exorbitant costs, the very vehicles, right? The exact vehicles, the particular vehicles. Raise the funds, wear and tear, which is a common idiom. Deterioration of, sustainable, and maybe sustainable is more of a vocabulary thing, but it does come up whenever you're talking about the pollution. Indiscriminate taxation and the proliferation of something, so the increase of. I've also used several different types of complex sentences. So obviously subordinating conjunctions is one type, and I've got them distributed very evenly throughout. I've also got their close cousins, the correlative conjunctions, which are just subordinating conjunctions that come in two parts. Both and, I've used that twice, and then so that. I've also used complex sentences with relative clauses, and they're distributed throughout. And some of those are reduced, like vehicles that are designed to. You don't see the that are, but it is implied. The contributing to the maintenance tax base. So the tax base that is for maintenance. I've also used participles to create complex sentences with discouraging, contributing, and paying. I've also used my parallels in two places, which gives me a score for language efficiency as well as complex sentences. I've used gerunds in several places, a nice kind of a complex sentence, and then obviously those conjunctive adverbs that everybody talks about. For my tenses, I've got the present perfect in several places. I've got the simple present in several places. I've got a couple of passives in here because it is supposed to be a formal response to the prompt. I've also got a present continuous, and I've got some simple past. And again, we've got a little bit of that passive for that formality. So when you're trying to pick up points for a higher score in IELTS, there are several things that you can do. So the first one is to think quickly and settle on your problem and solution. What are you going to say? Pick up structural points by separating your response into an introduction with a line space, a problem with a line space, a solution with a line space, and a conclusion. That will give you points for your organization, your formatting, your paragraphing, and your completeness. Make sure you develop each paragraph with examples and details. You can also pick up points by throwing in a sprinkling of phrasal verbs and common expressions, and the odd idiom is good too. You can pick up points by using those language efficiency techniques like parallels, relative clauses, and possessives. Make sure your tense endings agree. Vary your sentence structure. As you saw in the previous slide, I used a lot of different types of complex sentences, And the more of those that you can use comfortably, the higher your score. And make sure your punctuation is accurate. And finally, use a little bit of passive voice just for that formality, and don't use any contractions. If you're struggling with your English and you need a little bit of help, or you just need a little bit of help preparing for your test, do give me a call at 613-614-6460. You can also email me, angela@oshawaenglish.com. And you know that working with a tutor will turn passive learning into active learning. It targets the things that matter, so you progress very, very quickly. And it saves you a lot of time trawling through YouTube. I hope you've enjoyed my video. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.